it recording?
It's recording. What's up, patrons?
Patrons, yeah.
Patreons?
Patrons.
Patrons on Patreon? Mike the Cop here. Did you know that already? Because you're a patron. Patreon. This is me. We're doing this raw.
That could be taken a lot of ways.
It could be taken a lot of ways. No editing on this video, people, because you deserve the most honest version of me you can get. You paid for it.
Either that or you're just lazy.
It's kind of like I'm sort of like a video prostitute. Oh, gross. All right, I put on the community posts for patrons only to view that I would do a Q&A just for you guys. I've been really sort of terrible at Patreon, mostly because I don't really understand what the best way to do it is, so I keep kind of messing around with it a little bit here and there, and I keep taking slow steps to be better at it, so I hope you recognize that. I hope I'm not letting you down too bad. I'm going to catch up on some things like following people that I said I would follow and all that. The big trouble I'm having is with having a category for a private Facebook group, only because when I made that, I was under the impression that I could actually create a group off of my Facebook page where I could use my business profile as Mike the Cop. But that group is not functioning right. Something is not right. Either the technology isn't what I thought it was, or it's just messing up for me. Either way, I don't want to get into using my personal profile via Patreon. So I have to figure out an alternate way to do things, and we're working on it. But I don't want to keep changing it up all the time, so I'm just kind of like left it as is for now, and I just reach out directly to the people that sponsor it at different levels. So I wanted to answer these questions that I did get listed here, and if you did not know about this or didn't see this post and didn't ask a question yet, there's nothing stopping us from doing this again. So I'll just do it again. No big deal. So here's the questions that I did get. Bacqn, B-A-C-Q-N, says, how do you feel about the level of medical training you get? I feel good about it. I'd rather have less, but I think I get, the bare minimum. I don't know how it is in every state. Couldn't tell you. I've only been certified in one state. As part of the police academy, we had to have 40 hours of training in medical stuff. So we had an entire week in the police academy basically dedicated to CPR and then basic first aid. You're talking about things like making a splint, using triangle bandages to hold up an arm or whatever. The terms don't even matter. So that's fine because we show up on an accident scene or a shooting scene, stabbing scene, any type of scene where some type of medical emergency has been the result. At least we can do something potentially until advanced medical support gets there. So I guess I feel happy and very satisfied with the level. One thing that I don't like is that they trained us in Narcan, and I'm going to make a whole separate video about that, but I don't think that cops should be messing around with Narcan for a few reasons. I think it's contrary to what our job description is. So I did get trained in that, and I don't want to be trained anymore in that. Me personally, I got my start at a department that is what's in Michigan called public safety, which means that we do both police and fire, and I actually was certified as a medical first responder. So here in Michigan, that would be like you've got first aid CPR, which is what everybody gets in the academy. Then there's MFR, which is a little bit more. You can administer oxygen, and they go through more stuff like delivering babies and a few other emergency medical things. And then you've got EMT, then you've got paramedic. So I did MFR. That has long since lapsed. Once I went to a police-only department, I didn't keep up with that licensing or whatever. I probably should have, but I didn't. The medical stuff just doesn't interest me. All right, hope that answers your question. Steven Jensen wants to know what initially caused you to want to become a cop and what was the academy like. Well, as far as wanting to become a cop, I grew up listening to Police Scanner. I had an uncle that did reserve policing, and I would be at his house and listen to stuff on the scanner that he had. And I don't know, it's just one of those things. I think initially that was, man, being a cop would be cool, even as a kid. And then as I grew up, my brother became a police officer. I got to see sort of like, not firsthand, but I would go ride along with them or watch him at work or get to hear from him about, what his experiences were like, and having similar personalities. I thought, man, this would be probably a good fit. I did this later in life because I had a lot of other things going on in my life that, took precedence over trying to go down the road of being a police officer. But yeah, I just thought personality and job would go well together, and I feel like I was right about that. And because being a cop affords you a lot of opportunity to use so many different skills, reasoning, logic, writing, people skills. There's a lot that goes into it, and so yeah, it's a good fit. The academy was long, and my academy was a paramilitary style academy. I know that is becoming more and more common these days. Another video idea for being real soft on trainees versus being real hard. In my academy, I would say that it wasn't like insane, but it was definitely harder than what I see coming out of that same academy these days, both physically and mentally. It was boring a lot of times when you get into the classroom portion of stuff. They kind of have to teach to the lowest common denominator, and there's a lot of things that X number of hours are required by the state that don't really take that many hours. So it can be irritating and boring, but all in all, it's been cool. It's cool to have those group of guys that you went to the academy with that you stay in contact with or catch up with later and see where they're at. And so I don't know, it's fun. I know it's easy to want to get it over with, but it's also something you'll look back on and miss. So enjoy it if you're in the academy. Eric wants to know, he'd love to know why I chose to stay in law enforcement given the climate in the U.S. today toward the LEO community. Well, I think, Eric, that it's more perception than reality. I think there is an anti-law enforcement climate from the far left, and in the media that is influenced by leftist ideology. But overall, I don't think that represents the vast majority of Americans. I don't think that represents the vast majority of people in general who are law-abiding citizens, who respect the police and their authority, who respect the job that they have to do, and want to work together with them and are grateful for them. So I think the reason I would stay is because I really think that it's worth battling over the perception and continuing to do something that is a benefit for not only this profession but for the community in general. The people need people who can step into the realm of social media or public domain of ideas and represent reality better. And so that's why I'm staying. As a resident of Michigan, what's your opinion of Kid Rock? I've never met him. His music there's some really good stuff, and there's some stuff that's not as good, but he's talented. And yeah, I don't know. I would like probably his lake house if he has one. Paul McGuire says, what are ways we can help our local PD? I enjoy waving, nodding at police cars as they drive by. Most of the time I get a friendly wave or not back. A few times I get a worried look. I'd love to buy lunch for police officers at restaurants when I see them in line, but I always wonder if I'll cause scares, problems, bolting up to pay. Can residents walk into a local PD and make donations? Stuff I've always meant to look into but never have, figuring LEOs have more important stuff to do in ways to make more dollars than I could donate. Okay, there's a kind of a few questions in here. What are ways we can help our local PD? The simplest way is to find out what kind of events or things they're already doing in the community, and then kind of like volunteer or participate with that. That's what I would say. Yeah, waving, nodding at the police is fine. Some communities, that's normal. I've worked in some places where that's not normal, so I could imagine giving some looks like being surprised that someone was waving at you. But yeah, that's fine. I mean, have a pair of pants on when you're nodding and waving. That'll be more normal. You'd love to buy lunch for police officers when you see them. It's nice to be. That's definitely happened where the waitress says, "Oh, so and so paid for your bill." I would do it anonymously. It does get really, really awkward when someone buys your stuff for you, and the waitress says, "Oh, this guy paid your bill," or whatever. Or if you come up to the front of the line when they're in line to pay or something, and you take care of it, and everybody else is watching, it can be embarrassing because it makes you feel like, well, what about everybody else in line? I'm no more special than they are, but here in front of everybody, I'm getting this meal paid for, that kind of a thing. It can be embarrassing. So it's a nice gesture. It is appreciated when it happens. And I know a lot of our guys will actually buy lunch for other people to sort of like pay it forward as well. So it's appreciated, but I would do it anonymously. That way there's no embarrassment to it, That's my personal take. Maybe other cops have different opinions. Can residents walk into a local PD and make donations? Well, it depends on what you mean by donations. But if you're talking like, food, like bringing a dozen donuts or something like that, yeah, sure. I don't know what other donations there would be other than like, wristband that says "Back the Blue" or something like that, or whatever. All those are fine. If you bring food from home, it's probably going to get thrown away unless they know you, unless you've earned some trust and they know you at the local PD. They're going to feel like that's a little bit of a risk to eat food from people that just randomly bring it in, who may want the cop that wrote them a speeding ticket to get really bad diarrhea. So, but anyway, yeah, I think that answers all the initial questions. And again, I appreciate you guys, and you're believing in what I'm doing enough that you're actually putting dollars behind it. So I appreciate that. Always feel free to message me as one of my patrons. I look at that and I will get back to you, and I put that as a priority on the people that I respond to and engage with. So thanks so much, and I will see you guys later.